Hi, everyone. So this week, the lesson was about the first Sunday in Advent. Can you believe we're here already? I can't believe it. I'm kind of dressed up for Thanksgiving because that's what I'm doing. Thanksgiving's Thursday, so figured I might as well dress up a little bit for the occasion. But anyway, the lesson yesterday for the children was really, I'm still trying to think about it because it was a lot going on, and it was all good from what I could tell, but it was fine and it was fun. The very first thing, if you remember and you recall, I've been going with them over the act of contrition and getting to the point where I hope they could memorize it by heart. So this way they don't have to take around papers. And so that's been kind of their thing to do at night. So when I got there yesterday, it was like, Grandma, we know it all by heart, the act of contrition. I'm like, really? So yeah, let me do it first, the twins. So one wants to do it first. So she does it and does it beautifully. And then I said, you got it, you did it. And she's jumping all over the couch and she's all excited. And I started thinking, when's the last time you saw anybody do that in church? I don't think, wouldn't that be nice if people got that excited sometimes? But anyway, so Justin struggled a little bit with it, but by the end of he kept doing it and doing it. He was determined to do it. He kept skipping one line and he did it. So it was fine. That was a real fun thing. And it just goes to show you that writing down a prayer 5 times isn't going to help them to memorize it or to learn about it. And my question to them was, do you understand what you're praying when you say this prayer? Do you get it? Do you understand it? Yes, Grandma, we understand. So that for me is the most important thing. So that's how we started. And then we got into our opening prayer. And I said, let's just think about Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving's coming up. Let's pray in thankfulness for things. So I think I started it. And then they did. I pray for my family. I pray for my friends. And I said, hold it a second. When you say you pray for your family, what are you asking God for your family? And they had to think. And so I said, anybody could give you a litany of things to say. Let's find out what is you really want for your family so you can get in touch with those feelings, those concerns. And sure enough, I pray that my family stays healthy. I pray that my family learns from each other. I mean, they really got into some really interesting things. I pray for my friends that they all stay well and that they all have a happy Thanksgiving. And so they got more specific. I wasn't going to let them off the hook. It was just, it's too easy to say, my friend, blah, 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 blah. I wanted to know, what is it specifically you're asking God for? So that's another little, growth in their prayer life, which, so all this comes together as you're doing it. It's just, you take advantage of this prayer here. There's, learning about, not only formal prayer, but also learning about spontaneous prayer. And that for me, that communication with God is just so important. So we follow with the lesson plan. And for the older children, they're in venture. So it was interesting. We had a chance to go over the liturgical calendar really well. And you can do that also with the younger children. You can go through that. They can learn the colors, especially with, Advent coming up, the 3 purple and then 1 rose, and what does that mean? And I've looked at those lessons and I see, there's certainly room for all of that. There's room to do kinds of plays with the children, whatever you feel you can do to help them learn. But they're the young ones, even first graders know colors, and they know, obviously they know the differences. And when you go to church on Sunday, what color are you going to see? So that certainly works for the younger ones all the way through up to the older ones. So we followed the lesson plan. And after we did the liturgical year, we got into, for their grade level, it was a story about, this was so typical, about a family where the older children, there are 3 children, the older children would watch the younger child while the parents were out for the evening. And this is very reticent of this family I am with yesterday, of my son and his children. And the older children are bossy. So the younger one scoots out and she hides, and they're calling her, and she's so angry because they're so bossy, she doesn't even go. She just stays outside. And all of a sudden they start shutting lights, and she gets nervous and she wants to go back into the house. And long story short, they won't let her in. So she starts to bang on the window and they still won't respond. And she takes a hockey stick and breaks the window and her arm starts to bleed. And that's how it ends. And all of a sudden you hear the garage door opening. So the questions that led to this, oh my God, it was like opening up a Pandora's box, because it so happened the older siblings were there listening to all of this. And they got into this bossiness and who was to blame and what would you do? And their mom was there. What would you do with your parents when your parents walked in? What do you think your parents would say? So everybody was listening, and they were not afraid to say how they felt. And it was just something that I think they as a family need to revisit. It's natural, I think, for the older children to be a little bossy, but they can be nicer about it, I'm sure. So it was just a very lively conversation. And it was, I'm just sitting there going, oh my God, okay, you got some work to do here on this family. So I think they got the hint. But it was good for them. It was a good topic to come up, and something that was very real and something they could relate to. And really, at the end of the day, what is the most loving thing to do? So that we got through that. That was really interesting. After the jumping on the furniture, we got this. So, of course, with this gospel, now we're preparing this first Sunday of Advent, preparing for Christmas. And we did the prayer. We did a prayer later on for Advent. And what would they do to prepare? And because that's what the gospel is about, preparing, preparing for the incarnation. And we went to that word again, the incarnation. And that is the theme. That's the theme. Again, that comes back to us. Jesus is coming, but it's coming now. You're a little older. It's not just like a nativity scene. Like, what does that mean? And I asked the question, how would you prepare? And I followed the question from the lesson plan. How would you prepare for that happening if Jesus were to come again? And we'd say our prayers, we'd be nicer, very generalities. And finally I said to them, listen, now remember, the family is still sitting around, the rest of the family members. What would you do if Jesus called you on the phone in the morning and said, I'm coming to your house this afternoon? How would you react? I said, that's what he did to Zacchaeus a few weeks ago, if you remember that gospel. And they looked at me. Everybody kind of had this look of like deer caught in the headlights kind of look. And I was just dealing with the children. I wasn't dealing with mom or the other kids. And there was a dead silence. And I said, what would you do? And Justin said, the first thing I would do is call you, Grandma, because you would know what to do. I said, no, I'm not here. I mean, if you invite me, fine, I'll come. But if Jesus were to come, what would you do? And they look, I said, let me ask you, what would you wear? Oh, we'd get nice clothes, would you? And why would you do that? Because that's respectful. I said, oh. And Justin said, I think I would just wear sweats because I just want to be comfortable in front of Jesus because that's important. And I said, okay, all right, well, that's you. And his mother's like turning green. But I said, what would you do? Would you prepare a meal? And they said, oh, yeah. I said, what would you prepare? Something really good, something he would like. And then I would ask him to watch a movie with us, with me. What movie would you choose? Well, something that I like Elf. After all, I hear another one, and the older ones say, Jesus does know Saint Nick. And I said, well, there's a difference between Santa Claus and Saint Nick, but that's for another day. So it was really interesting to hear their reaction. And my daughter-in-law was like, I don't know. Oh my gosh, if that really happened. And I said, well, this is the point of this gospel. How prepared would you be? How would you be if Jesus, how are you? But to try to live those qualities you're talking about now, to be respectful, to be yourself, to feel you can share things with Jesus, that you could talk to them. And I did say, would you feel comfortable enough to speak with him? Would you be relaxed enough? And they did say yes. Now the older kids, I'm not so sure, but certainly these two, they said, oh yeah, we would be very comfortable talking to Jesus. And then again, Justin, but Grandma, you'd have to come. I said, well, if you could invite me if it happens, I'll be here, but it's your ball game, So I just thought that was really, really interesting for them to talk about. And I said, this is something you should think about, because you have to remember Jesus is here all the time. And just remember that. So I didn't want to hold it on like over the head, you got to behave but just realize that Jesus is always with us. That's what Emmanuel is all about, right? God is with us. So then we talked about the prophets because the next, of course, Isaiah is coming in heavy with Advent. And in their Bibles, I asked them to look up how many prophets are there in the Old Testament. And they counted them because there's color coded tabs, and they did that. So they're into Isaiah as well, a little bit, and to see who they were. At the end, we talked about Thanksgiving again. And I'm really excited about this. And I said, why don't the two of you look up prayer, Google it, or if you want to make it up, and you too will lead the family in prayer before Thanksgiving dinner. And they kind of looked at me and I said, yeah, you could do it. Okay. Well, I said, just divide it up. They found a prayer. They Googled it right there in front of me. It was really lovely. And I said, you do this part, you do that part, and you're okay with this. Be fine. So just to see that confidence. Last year at this time, I don't think they had, I know they did not have that confidence. Well, they're growing up a little bit, they're learning more. And I think the fact that they can go ahead and feel free in front of their whole family to pray. And they know the attention will be on them, but that doesn't seem to be bothering them. And I'm happy about that. So that was another thing that happened yesterday. So they're all set to do their prayer, and I'm thrilled. And I closed the lesson. I usually like to use a song, and of course, the song is O Come, Emmanuel, as you know. But I found a different version of it for them. It was more contemporary. I forget the name of the group. I don't know if it's I'm not sure. I'm not sure for King and Country, maybe. I'm not sure. That might be the group. But anyway, it was very entertaining and it was very contemporary, and they liked it. So I decided, I think for Advent, we're going to do O Come, Emmanuel, but different versions of it, one each week, so they can get a feeling of it, think what that means and what the words of that song, the lyrics really mean, and incorporate that into the lesson. So I'm looking forward to doing that as well. So all in all, I would have to say yesterday was a good lesson. It not only was them, you could see how it rippled to the rest of the family. And I know they were talking about it. And I think that's a good thing. I think that's very good to get the family started talking about these things as well. And it's an honor to be like the impetus for them to do that, to be the one who kind of, leads the charge, and with taking a backseat, let them discuss it. So it's only, I think, a good thing. I think it's a healthy thing. So with that was this lesson for the first Sunday of Advent as we start this week. Get your wreaths out and your candles, and even that's something the little ones like to do as well. Get the candles ready. Get them and doing that, and of course praying, whatever you can get your hands on to do every week, a ritual with lighting the Advent candle, whichever way you think best or your family thinks best. So with that, I wish you all a very happy Thanksgiving and a blessed Advent. We come back next week. We'll be into the second week of Advent, and we'll be talking more about that then. Take care. God bless. And don't forget, if you need any questions, you have any comments you want to make, don't forget to email me. Take care. Bye-bye.